Hey TCS TV viewers, it's Dave and Evelyn from the Camera Store, and today we're giving you a hands-on look on Nikon's latest camera, the D780.
Today we have a hands-on look at the new Nikon D780, which is Nikon's latest full-frame DSLR camera. It has a 24 megapixel backside illuminated CMOS sensor, and it has some interesting features by pulling from both its previous model, the popular D750, as well as their mirrorless camera lineup, the Z6.
Yeah, so we're trying to figure out where it kind of fits into the world when it comes to this camera. Is it more of a mirrorless camera? Is it more of an SLR camera?
Well, okay, it's a DSLR camera because it has the mirror mechanism in it. And there are a lot of limitations to that mirror mechanism, but they've incorporated a lot of the same tech in the live view functionality. And so when I first heard about this camera a couple weeks ago, it almost sounded like this was like a mirrorless camera on training wheels for people that still use f-mount lenses and still like the idea of shooting with a DSLR camera.
So we tried it out on two drastically different shooting sort of scenarios. I had the very cold opportunity to shoot old man hockey as the young superstar Brendan, our videographer, was playing in the other day.
Yes, and then we are in a really cool place. We're in a new studio in Calgary called Studio 8 YYC that's run by our good friend Jeremy Focus, who invited us here so that we could do some shooting, and he also connected us with a dancer named Anna, and so we could really test this in a few different scenarios.
Now I got to shoot hockey with it the other night. Now this camera isn't a dedicated sport shooting camera, but it is very competent and very capable. And things like 7 frames per second certainly gives me the ability to capture some decent action. If I want to switch into the live view, it will go up to 12 frames per second, but I go down to a 12-bit RAW rather than a 14-bit RAW that I do with 7 frames per second. Now a big improvement is the buffer on this camera. Now I can shoot up to 68 RAW before it starts to slow down, where the predecessor, the 750, would top out at 15. That's a big improvement. This camera now tops out at 1/8,000th of a second top shutter speed. That's really impressive. Now, I wasn't able to shoot that fast during the hockey. My lighting wasn't that good. But that brings me to another point. They've improved the ISO performance. Now, I had to shoot everything at 6400 ISO to get the shutter speed that I needed. And I was very confident doing it with this camera. Nikon says that we have a one-stop extra range with the ISO performance. Now, I'd even be willing to push it even further to 12.8, for instance, if I had to, and be very comfortable with it. While shooting sports, especially with a slightly longer lens like the 70-200, I don't like using the rear view screen to kind of track action. I don't find I'm getting great results that way. I get much better results when I'm using the viewfinder. So with the optical viewfinder on the D780, I was able to track action and frame shots how I wanted. Now, while shooting through the optical viewfinder, I have access to 51 autofocus points, 15 of which are cross-type, and I also set it up for face detection, and it worked really well tracking the players across the ice. Now, this camera borrows a lot of technology from the Nikon D5. It's not their latest and greatest technology, but it certainly performs really well. The autofocus is a definite improvement over the Nikon D750.
The biggest upgrades with the D780 have to do with the live view shooting functionality, because they've literally taken the technology from Nikon's mirrorless cameras and put it into a DSLR. And so when we say this is kind of like a mirrorless camera on training wheels, still with a DSLR form factor, that's really what it is, because you don't have an electronic viewfinder. It's still the optical setup, but when you switch it into live view and you're shooting through that back LCD screen, all of a sudden you get this mirrorless functionality. What this means is that you're getting 273 phase detection autofocus points, which gives you 90% coverage of the sensor. It also gives DSLR shooters the ability to play around with eye detection, which is seen in a lot of mirrorless cameras. And so it kind of gives that mirrorless experience just without the electronic viewfinder. For me personally, I have to say that I have a really hard time shooting with an LCD screen. I really like looking through an electronic viewfinder or an optical viewfinder to frame my shot. And so when I'm holding the camera out like this, it just doesn't seem natural to me. But I know that there's a lot of photographers out there that got their start shooting with smartphones, and so they're used to that LCD experience. And so I kind of wonder if that's Nikon's thinking, is that there's a lot of people that are moving up into photography, they want to get a better camera setup. And so maybe in those cases, having this live view technology at their fingertips in a DSLR might be the way to go. The other improvements that we're seeing over the predecessor, the D750, have to do with the video side of things, making this a more versatile, well-rounded camera. Now, when you look at the video features, a lot has changed in the 5 years since the D750 came out. One of them, of course, has to do with 4K video footage, and so you can shoot that up to 30p. The other option is you can go into slow-mo and you can shoot 120 frames per second in 1080p with sound, and it's really fun to play around with. We tried a couple examples with our dancer Anna today, and it was really great to see that you have a lot more flexibility than you did with the D750. When you're shooting in the live view mode for video, you're also able to take advantage of that autofocus technology, again from their mirrorless cameras. And so you have the face detection and you have the tracking, and it does give pretty nice smooth video transitions. I like the look of the autofocus that Nikon has put into their video modes in both the mirrorless cameras and now this D780. It looks really nice, and to kind of fully make it compatible for a video camera, you have a headphone jack, you have a microphone jack, and so you're able to do a lot of your audio monitoring as well. The other thing I really like is the interface. The interface for the camera, again, in live view is very similar to the Z6 system. And Nikon, when they designed it, they made it very user-friendly so that DSLR users will find it all very familiar. Lastly, I really like how they set up the interface for a lot of the other specialty settings, including the time-lapse and interval shooting. It's really easy to find, and it makes it easy to set up and get those time-lapse sequences.
Now, the shots I took at the hockey arena was definitely under less than ideal lighting conditions, but I let the camera do a lot of the thinking for me, so I left it on auto white balance, and I was really quite happy with the image quality and the colors that it was giving me.
Yeah, they're also really clean looking shots, even at the higher ISOs. I think that this speaks to Nikon having really good quality sensor. I mean, even since the D750 that came out 5 years ago, and it is bizarre to think that there hasn't really been a big improvement over that camera in terms of resolution and image quality, but that speaks to how good the D750 was.
Yeah, 750 was a fantastic camera, so.
Yeah, now they have taken some things away from the D750 that we should mention. One of them that might be a little offensive to some people is that there is no pop-up flash in this camera.
Yeah, now I'm not a huge fan of the pop-up flash in the first place. It doesn't really give you the most flattering patterns, but it's really nice sometimes just to have that little pop, especially outside if I want to just fill some shadows in. But they removed it with this one.
Yeah, they've also taken away the contacts on the bottom of the camera, which seems to be consistent with the Z6 series of cameras. And so if they put on a vertical grip at some point, there's not going to be any controls.
Yeah, so it's just going to give you an extra access to an extra battery, but you're not actually getting a vertical control, which is something I really like, and I think that's a no-brainer for a battery grip.
Yeah, but I think overall, the feel of the camera still stays true to Nikon's DSLR form, which I really like. And I like some of the subtle changes that they've made. One of them is if you're someone that likes back button autofocusing, they now have a dedicated AF button. And so you can use that for back button autofocus, and so you no longer have to try to program another button to get that functionality.
Yeah, we do have an articulating screen, which we really quite like, and it is fully touch compatible.
Yes, yeah. So you can navigate the menus, which is really nice. And it's some of the better, I would say, touchscreen technology that we've seen in a lot of cameras. The only thing that you can't do is move your autofocus points around when the screen is up to your eye.
Yeah, now a nice improvement as well. We do have dual card slots like the 750 has, but they're both UHS 2 now.
Yes, and they're facing the direction you like, Dave. So that's nice.
I don't want to say anything, but
and
yes.
One's on top, two's on bottom.
Thank you, Nikon. Thank you.
Yes. Another little thing that they did, which really speaks to the value that they're putting on that live view technology, is there's a dedicated switch for photo and video, and in the middle of it is that live view button, and it's in a more prominent spot on the back of the camera.
Yeah, it makes a more seamless integration of being able to switch from photos to video.
Yeah, another thing that they've enhanced is the Wi-Fi connectivity as well as Bluetooth. And so you're able to have that direct connectivity to your smartphone, but then you're also able to connect to a computer device, and you're able to do a lot more with image transfer wirelessly.
Yeah, they have their SnapBridge app, it works really well.
Yeah, it's been drastically improved. So if you're someone that shot maybe 5 years ago with the D750, it's come a long way and it's worth giving a shot.
Definitely revisit SnapBridge with the 780. It's much, much better.
Yes, and of course from the actual build of the camera, I mean, this feels really rugged. It's not crazy heavy. It's just a really nicely balanced camera. And when it comes to battery life, we're seeing the ENEL15B battery. And if you are shooting optically through that viewfinder, then you can get over 2,000 shots on the CPA rating per battery charge. And that will give you the ability to do USB-C charging, but it is backwards compatible with the other ENEL15 batteries as well.
Yeah, but you can't charge through USB with the A batteries, correct?
No, not with the A or just the 15 without the letter. So yeah, you need that B option to be able to use USB-C. So I think at the end of the day, the real question is, who's this camera made for? Who would buy it? And I think it is a really nice camera, and it is a decent upgrade from the D750, but there's a few buts there.
But you have to look at, you know, am I willing and do I want to jump into the full mirrorless system? You know?
Yeah, I mean, I still think that the Z6 camera is a better value, and you gain some things with the Z6. You get in-body image stabilization.
That's huge.
You get one XQD card slot.
That's huge.
The biggest one to me is the electronic viewfinder experience.
Nikon has done an exceptional job with the Z6 and Z7 with their electronic viewfinder. They look and they look fantastic. They work great. So this is the problem with this camera.
Yes.
It's like, where does it fit in?
Well, if you're someone that has a lot of f-mount lenses and you've invested into the system, then this would be a really nice upgrade. And it kind of gives reason to believe that Nikon might be creating this way to seduce DSLR users, the die-hard DSLR users that are invested in the f-mount system, to try out some of those mirrorless.
Yeah, I mean, if you are an existing 750 owner, there's nothing wrong with your 750 at all. But this entices you a little bit more, a couple extra features that you might like. You might want a little faster buffer, might like the little faster frames per second. You might want the dual cards that are UHS 2. Maybe it's enough. I want you to move over.
Yeah. And I keep trying to think like, okay, so what does someone get out of this camera that they wouldn't get out of the Z6? And I think really the only things it comes down to is the battery performance. And then you get the two memory card slots.
Yeah. No,
What else is there?
Yeah.
I guess the durability and the form factor.
You know, and I think you hit it, though. If you are an existing f-mount user and you have a lot of f-mount lenses, you certainly have the f-mount built into this camera here. Now, you do get the adapter for free quite often with the Z6, but it's one of those things. We're in this serious state of transition. I think this is just another stepping stone to get you into mirrorless.
Yes. What I'd really like to know is if there are any die-hard DSLR users, maybe you have a bunch of f-mount lenses and you don't want to necessarily go mirrorless yet. Is it exciting to have some of this mirrorless technology built into a DSLR camera?
Yeah, are you just incredibly stubborn like I am, or are you ready to make that leap into that whole mirrorless world?
Yeah, we want to know. So make sure you comment below. Let us know what you think.
Make sure you follow us on Instagram.
And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit that notification bell so we can catch you again very soon. If you're still around and you're looking for something else to watch, here's one of the videos that we recommend. And if some of this gear intrigued you and you're thinking about making the purchase, then click up here to our website, thecamerastore.com, to check it all out.